Welcome to Replayable, where we go into depth on our favorite tabletop games that keep us coming back again and again. I'm the start player Todd, and today I'm joined by David and Paul. For our 35th episode, we'll be exploring all the auctions with modern art. It was designed by Reiner Knizia and released by Hans im Glück in 1992. There have been several reprints and versions since then. To start, I present you with this amazing painting by upcoming artist Crypto. Who wants to make the first bid?
Sold!
Crypto's not going to be worth anything. I don't bid. I decline to bid.
Modern Art is a classic auction game where players act as art dealers, buying and selling paintings. Each player takes turn hosting auctions with different types, including open, sealed, once around, fixed, and double auctions. There are 5 artists whose work is up for bid, and the round ends when the 5th painting by the same artist is revealed. The catch is that only the top 3 artists with the most revealed paintings will earn money that round. Thus, the value of the artwork fluctuates based on player decisions. This game won the Deutscher Spielepreis in 1993, and it was, in my mind, that was Knizia's breakout year because he actually took first and second. Where were you in your gaming journey when you encountered modern art? Dave?
Modern Art is a very early game for me. So I think it's a year one modern game for me. You know, I probably got 20 games the first year I got into modern board games, and this was certainly one of them. This and Tigris and Euphrates would have been my first 2 Knizia games. Mm-hmm. And those are both year one games for me.
Awesome. Paul?
I was unaware of it until I started playing with you guys. I think my first play was around 2010.
What? I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I've got my copy. Same thing, Dave. When I started getting into Euro games and looking at which ones were well-known and well thought of, and I bought mine back in 2005. So it had already been out for 13 years, but that was the first time that I remember playing it. And at the time, I was like, oh, this game doesn't seem like much, right? It's just a bunch of auctions, and okay, they're slightly different. And it was crazy how quickly my brain just melted once I started trying to appreciate what it meant to win, how much I should bid, and all that stuff. And so I thought it was fantastic, and I still like it to this day.
Yeah, I would say Modern Art was one of the games that taught me that auction games could be a lot better and a lot more than just Monopoly.
Was that your frame of reference before? Did you play other auction games?
I did not. No.
Okay.
When I thought of Euro games, I did not think of auctions. It was more of decisions, worker placement. I remember caught fire around the time I really dove into Euros.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until maybe 5 years later that auctions started appealing to me.
Yeah, I remember playing, do you remember that game Pit? Where you were trying to do set collection and you were basically haggling, like I'll give you 2 bears for 2 bulls or whatever.
And there's no turns, right? It's just a riotous
It's just riotous
interaction.
Yeah. After Monopoly, that was the next one where things were a different level of interaction and semi-auctions. But yeah, I don't know if I remember playing a true auction game, and certainly not in the Euro variety. Like, it was a while longer before I played Hoity Toity.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Power Grid was honestly my introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have so much memory of just doing raw calculations in that game. I forget that there's an auction to it as well.
Well, to me, I mean, we may do Power Grid on this someday. I'm not sure. We don't play it very much. But
we will.
You know, for me, it's all about getting number 25 or 26. So that's how I remember that it's an auction game, is I'm going all in on number 25. That's pretty much the only thing I remember about the game. It's been long enough since I've played. One of the things that I love is you put our show notes together and you've got a list of mechanisms. I think never has a list of mechanisms completely encompassed a game as this one does. Like,
right?
The list of mechanisms is literally the rules of the game. And there's nothing else to the game.
Right?
Between the different kinds of auctions, commodity speculation, and hand management, I don't quite understand victory points as a resource. I mean, I do, but
You're
money.
spending them to win the paintings.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you got to spend them to get more, invest them. But for the most part, that list that's the rules of the game. You're ready to play.
You're right. I didn't even notice that, but yeah. Nor will you ever find a game that has so many entries under auction. I mean, There's auction/bidding, but then the 4 auction types are also listed as individual mechanisms. So
Right. Which, my experience was different from yours, Todd. So to compare with Tigris and Euphrates, which I said I got around the same time. So I read the rules to Tigris and Euphrates before I got a chance to play it. And I was just scratching my head. We talked about that on what I think our first podcast.
Yeah, episode 1.
And it's external conflict, internal conflict. This just didn't make any sense to me as being a brand new gamer. Now I read it and I'm thinking, I don't know what my hang up was, but I remember at the time, I just could not see how this works. Exactly the opposite with this game. I remember reading the rules and, my head was that meme of the galaxy exploding,
Right.
I could see the implications and the layers and the depth just as I'm reading the 6-page rule book, 8-page rule book.
Right.
And even before I played, I felt like there's so much going on in this game. I love it.
So those 2 games, both Knizia titles, were those the first 2 Knizia games that you had played and or acquired?
For sure, for me, yeah.
Tigris was my first Knizia game.
Okay.
I may have got I got Lost Cities later, but I played Lost Cities online a little bit before I actually got it. I'm trying to think of what else I might have played. Ingenious is later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those were the first 2 for me, and I've never looked back. Knizia's been, one of my favorites right from the beginning and still is to this day. I have a point of order here. You listed the DSP runners-up, and for 1993, and on that list is Acquire by Sid Saxon, ?
Yes.
How is this possible? Do you know?
Well, I know what the standard answer to that kind of thing is, and it is that it's when a particular version got released in Germany. So it may not have been released in Germany prior to that and been considered.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. I would think you'd ask about Liar's Dice before Acquire, which is also...
Which, isn't Liar's Dice just a traditional game?
Yeah.
Hundreds of years old, maybe?
Exactly.
But, it took Richard Borg to come up with a board that goes along with it and work with packaging to come up with Perudo.
Fair enough.
And Liar's Dice won the Spiel des Jahres that year, while Modern Art won the Deutscher Spielepreis.
Which I can't complain too much. I've had a lot of fun playing Liar's Dice. I want to complain. There was no Kenner Spiel des Jahres back then.
I've never played the Richard Borg version. I always just take a bunch of dice out of my bucket and
same here. I don't.
I just take a dollar bill and let's have you ever done that with the serial numbers on dollar bills?
Oh yeah. But not Liar's Dice version, but I can see
I've never
that.
done those.
Oh yeah. It's
fascinating.
You just play poker with them.
You play poker with them. Yeah.
We were itching for games before we could actually go out and buy all these games.
We're true.
It was in our blood before we owned games.
OG gamers.
Dots and boxes and dollar bill poker. These were the true OG games.
We were junkies before the games hit the streets.
Yeah, I think Lost Cities was the first one, but after that, I quickly got Tigris and Euphrates and Modern Art, and then Ra were the first few, and ultimately quite a few of his, just because, we've talked about it before, the idea of elegance and emerging depth from a simple set of rules, and Modern Art is no exception to that.
Oh, yeah. It's almost a poster child.
Right? Ultimately, each of the auctions is easy to grasp, but let's talk about how that end of round mechanic works. So as soon as the 5th painting is revealed, and it's not even auctioned, right? It's just revealed. So whoever decides they're going to end that round by revealing the 5th painting, they're not going to get any money for it. They just have the advantage of locking in the values at whatever they're going to be. How does that affect your evaluation of the game? And what do you think your goals are to either facilitate or prevent that from happening?
When we played last time, I just wanted to say quickly this will lead into Paul, because Paul won the last game we played. 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. And his first comment is, wow, you have so much money. And he said, yeah, well, I never ended an auction. That was Paul's first comment as to, part of the success.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't want to be left holding the bag, because that's what I think of ending the auction is holding the bag. But it can be different. Like, we had a scenario where there was like a 3-way tie, right? We had 3 different artists with 4 paintings sold. So depending on what you were holding, there were a few people that were strongly incentivized to end the auction. And I recall that Todd took advantage of that with one of his bids.
Right. And guessed correctly.
Todd basically bid more than an artist's EV, except considering the case where the auctioneer would cause that artist to become first place due to the auctioneer's holdings.
Right. And it was great as that person was sitting like 2 seats away from me. If he didn't close it out and create the first place and basically make my bid profitable, then the next player was going to do it. And because we had 3 and the artists don't, there is a pecking order, right? There are no real ties. In ties, you can figure out that in the classic artist, light metal is going to break all ties, and then Yoko and so on. That the next person was going to close it out, and the person's holdings were going to be worth very little. So it was easy to second guess that it was in his best interest to close it out, which meant my EV was going to be higher. But that's a crazy sequence of thoughts to go through. And then, of course, talk the guy into doing, because that's the other thing.
Right. So there's a lot of inductive reasoning that you can really put to use in this game. And that's because it is strongly based on player positions. I remember back when I was introduced to this game that we just kept scratching our heads. We're like, why did this person win that time? Why did this person win? This other person keeps buying their own paintings, basically flushing money down the toilet, and they won. What is going on? And so we tried playing a game called So Long Sucker, which is a game theory game co-designed by John Nash to maybe suss out some of the game theory of modern art and the kind of temporary alliances and positional structures of the game. I don't think it helped much, but it was a very fun exploration into game theory at that time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, when it comes to ending the auction, there's a value proposition there, right? That I can envision scenarios to where, because when you end the auction, you play a card and you don't own that card, you don't auction the card. All you do is you take a card from your hand, you end the auction, you forego your auction turn.
Right.
And worst of all, the person to your left is next to play.
Right. Your auction turn is really when you're making most of your money if you're doing it right. But that's still a value proposition where I can be in a position where if I end it right now, I can increase the value of, say, my 4 cards each by 10,000 or whatever. You can calculate it and see, if I end this right now, I'm going to earn 40,000 or whatever it is. Or I could auction something off. Am I going to get 80,000? You can do those calculations. And I can definitely see an effect, I think, when the auction you're talking about, knowing full well what the player to his left was going to do, the player who ended the auction was able to end it, secure some good earnings for him, so increase the value of his portfolio, knowing full well what would happen if he didn't.
Right.
There's a lot of layers of thinking in this game. And while I agree with everything you just said, I think it can sometimes be short-sighted. You can also play for a longer game in that you might want to end the auction with something winning if you have a lot of that artist still in your hand after you've done so. And that's a strategic decision.
Right.
I think one of our group thinks is that we don't have longer games because, we played the other night when we played Yoko Got Hot. And so everybody just started dumping Yoko. Cashing in on the quick money. And so rarely do you get 2 auctions in a round unless you're first to auction.
I think what you're saying is we rarely have artists that make 0 per painting.
That's right. That's definitely right.
And we certainly have room to explore that more. I agree.
Yep.
What do you mean make 0 per painting?
So if it's not one of the top 3 sold.
Oh.
Yeah, if you
we
just
had that happen at least one round last time.
Yes. I won a double auction on speculation that ended up in 4th place.
And you still beat us all handily.
Because every round I ended with like 5 paintings in front of me.
Yeah.
Which that's an interesting part of the game too, is that, when you buy that double auction, part of the calculation going into it is that I'm coming up soon in turn order because now I can add to it.
Right.
Because you want to hedge your investment.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think one of the most important aspects to digging deeper into this game is understanding that the expected value is different for each player. The person who wins it will have a different expected value based on where they're sitting and what cards they have in their hand.
Okay.
Well, sort of, because I'm calculating that into expected value. So, but yeah, I guess it does have a different value for me.
No, if you win let's say the person auctioning is to your left, you actually have the least incentive to want to win that because your winning it could depress its value.
Right.
whereas somebody else who is sooner in turn order has more incentive because they can add on and increase the value.
Right. Totally agree.
Of course, in an open auction, they could try and bluff you by bidding really high, and you might think, hey, they're going to play this no matter what. I'm going to bid high too.
Well, then we stumble back into groupthink because there are often times where we'll say, I don't want to be alone on this. Like, I don't want to pick up the second Yoko painting and be the only one holding Yoko at the table, because then no one's going to play Yoko.
Right.
So there are times where you let it go because you want someone else to be interested in keeping the value of Yoko high for that round. At least one other person.
Emerging alliances.
Yeah, there's alliances, there's bluffing, there's inductive reasoning. This game's got it all.
So it's number 165 on Board Game Geek's list of strategy games. Does it feel strategic to you? Do you agree with that categorization that it is a strategy game?
I don't know yet.
Well, to flip that, do you think of this as a family game? Do you want to play this with, grandma and aunt, whatever? And I feel like they might have a little bit of fun with it, but it's really opaque. Even for us, it's really opaque. And I think for a casual gamer, I mean, the rules are graspable, but the implications are really hard to get your head around.
Agreed.
So I don't know that I'd call it a family game.
I think there's a level of potential meanness to the game that would exceed my comfort level in family scenarios. Like, I'm either going to be bidding you up to make you spend more money, or I'm trying to talk people out of spending a lot of money for the card you're auctioning, right? So I guess if your family is okay with higher conflict and direct conflict, then sure, it could be. But
yeah,
there are enough games out there that I normally don't play those kinds of games with my family. I save those for you guys. So that's the answer to family, but let's go back. Do you feel like it's a strategic game?
Well, my point was that then by default, I'm putting it in this strategy basket, because if it's not a family game, it's a strategy game. Because to me, this is one of those two. This game, not all games, this game.
Okay. Paul, what do you think?
For me, the jury's still out, and even though I've been playing it for 15 years.
Dang, jury.
It is hung.
Yeah. What kinds of things would make it strategic for you? I don't want to say changes, because the rules are what they are, but what different mindsets could you bring to it that would make it feel more strategic? I'll give you an example. I don't usually consider the types of auctions that I'm holding, but now I'm starting to think maybe it's better to hold open auctions until the end of the game, right? Because that's when, if you've guessed right, or if you've manipulated the coins on certain artists, you could curate your hand so that you had really valuable auctions in that final round and had good opportunities to earn, or at least two of them. Right? If you got two auctions in the final round.
Well, my thinking is it really comes down to your group think.
Mm-hmm.
And while playing this every 6 to 12 months means usually just play for max value, I think that there is a strategic path to offer alliances when you play early to say, hey, who wants to support this artist with me? Even though it is not a high money thing. And I think this kind of play has to be done in the very first round or the first two rounds.
After the first round, I could see it. If we think you're ahead, because you get told how much every person makes at the end of each round, right? So you had made like $140 in round one and were the biggest money earner on art value. Don't know what everyone else's pot was based on what they had earned during their auctions before they paid off, but your collection value is the highest. So therefore, when it comes back around, and let's say you put a Carl Gitter up for auction, we might want to start colluding right away and saying, okay, we're not going to help you win on Carl Gitter. Like, that could happen. And I could see that happening in the second round.
Yeah, that's one way, but that requires, in a 5-player game, that requires 4 colluders. I'm just talking about having 1 or 2 people join in on propping up a come-from-behind artist.
Right?
Yeah, I definitely got in that situation last time where I had a handful of Christian P. And
so in that position, you can be like, okay, I'm going to lose money up front here to get this on the board, and then I'm going to make it back when I've got a plus 30 or whatever it is.
Right.
It's so hard to do to get those alliances, because I may do that and lose money, but the player to my left is like, great, I'm going Yoko again, because Yoko's worth so much money, and that keeps happening.
Except Yoko has less total cards than Christian P.
Yeah,
Right.
that definitely came into play. Well, and Yoko pretty much ran out of cards by the final round.
Yes.
So did Light Metal.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens a lot when we play, since we tend to just chase max value.
So early on, we like the ones that are going to win tiebreakers, but then they
Right.
run out of cards.
We're not playing on this level, and I don't know if it's possible to play on this level, that I wonder if it has a gear like, say, Bridge, or what I've seen in Pinochle, where my bids communicate with other people.
Mm-hmm.
If I jump bid 5, I might be telling you that, like, I'm holding a lot of this card. Anybody else? I wonder if there could be something kind of under the table like that.
Yeah, I think we were doing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Signaling, I'm going to play this card if I win because my bid's so high.
Right. And sometimes that's clear, is that you are bidding higher than I am because you're closer in turn order. And so you're definitely coming back with a third of that card or whatever it is.
So it's possible. It could be strategic for other people, just not us yet. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
All right. How about the role-playing aspect of the game?
Well, you got to have fun. I mean, especially if you make the game last longer than what the box says. A little role-playing goes a long way.
Did we? Did we make it last longer? Box says
Yes.
45 minutes.
That's a joke. I think
We were over
they're
an
not
hour.
being serious when they say 45 minutes. That's just their first bid on how long the game's going to last. We outbid them by double.
I don't know, but I feel like it's important to do the role playing. Like, be an auctioneer, have fun with it, talk about all the money people are going to make. Get folks involved. That's what makes this
Especially in
game
an
fun.
open auction, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's not, it's usually rules of games like that will be like, have it up, go for it, have fun. More modern games say that. This doesn't say that, but you can't but help do that.
Right.
You're trying, you're auctioning something.
True.
I'm trying to drum up some excitement. I'm trying to make some money here. It really models real life sales where I need to get some people on board.
I just had a thought that the signaling thing you talked about, Dave, is most prevalent in the open auction. The other types of auction really restrict your signaling. But when you put a card up for open auction, you can get all the signals from everybody.
Well, no, but like a closed auction, everybody has to reveal what they bid. And so I can look at it and say, well, Todd only bid 5 on this. It's clearly worth 19 or, whatever the
Right.
case is. Like he must not be holding any. I think there's information and, to
Good
glean
point.
off
Good point.
Oh,
a closed or a once around auction on how quickly people pass or how much people sit and contemplate.
or what we saw on, what was it, the third round. So Yoko had scored in the first 2, and then Greg puts up a double Yoko auction, and it's silence. No, it was in the 4th round, and it's just silence. Like, nobody had a second Yoko to put out there with it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, nobody wanted to because it would have ended the round.
Right.
No.
So
no.
it went all the way around, and then he got it for free.
I'm talking about, and maybe it wasn't Yoko, but there was a subsequent auction where it was double, and literally
that was the final round. He
Right.
put out a double light metal, and nobody could follow.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So you put out a double light metal, and it was early enough, and light metal had won a couple of times. So if it had the juice to score, people would have jumped on it, and it literally went around the table crickets. There were no more light metal cards in anyone's hands.
Right. That was the second one for the round. So it was in question if they were going to score or not.
Right. And then we had the unusual and unexpected double auction to end the round.
That's one of these things about this game that if you had asked me before we that we played the game, like, should I do this? I would say, of course not. That's the stupidest thing that you could do. And Greg did it. Made money off of it.
Because he got the free light metal that was worth 70 if he ended it right there. So he's like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a game.
This game surprises us with things that make no sense being great plays.
I mean, most famously, the guy we used to play with who would buy his own paintings and still beat us somehow.
Paul and I would straight up call him a fool to his face for what he was doing. And then we'd count up our money at the end and he beat us.
Like,
we're like, what the
if you
heck?
take our money, you make 30. If you keep it and it has the best value, you only make 10. What are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Apparently he was winning.
Not only is he sacrificing value, but he's leaving money in your hands. So he's not affecting your score because, you are bidding with victory points. So taking money from you means your score is going down.
Well, and those games certainly had weird dynamics because, it's a closed economy, except for when the auctioneer buys his own paintings. Then money leaves the game. So we would have very low scoring games because
money enters the game every round, though.
Well, that's true. That's true. But we had money leaving the game when he would buy his own paintings.
Yes.
And then, he'd buy his own paintings. And then, of course, we're not going to add to it. He spent money on his painting. We're not going to auction off those paintings. And still, this was more than one game.
I don't remember. It was...
We were just scratching our heads for
consternation.
Yeah.
Let's look at, one more calculation thing, because first of all, this game really feels like it boils down to calculations. It's the expected value. What do I think this is going to make? Do I want to make profits on it? But how much profit do I want to make versus how much do I want to line your pockets, right? I think there's another level to play that I haven't yet started, which is, do I want to make money and also give Paul an opportunity to make money? Or do I want to perhaps buy my own and make less, but that means my score relative to Paul's is going to be better, right? For example, in the first round, the most any card ever is going to make is $30, right? The most it can make is $30 in the first round. So if I were able to buy my card for $15, that's break even, right? 50%.
If it makes 30.
If it makes 30. Yeah.
Right.
If someone's willing to pay more than $15, then on paper, it's more advantageous to me to accept a bid higher than $15 for it.
Yes.
But now, if you carry that forward to later rounds and someone's bidding $25 for a painting that's now going to possibly earn 50, but maybe I want to bid 30 and keep it out of Paul's hands if I think Paul's the leader. Do you ever consider that, or does that factor into your determination as to what you should bid?
Never to buy my own, but depending on the auctioneer. In the last round, I try to think about who I think is winning. In the last game we played, I thought it was you, Todd. And so I was very reluctant to bid highly on your paintings versus Dave. I was like, take all my money. I'll just make $1 profit if I win one of Dave's.
But you did make profits.
There's definitely a few games in a row where I've been really stodgy or really stingy and way too conservative, thinking like, well, no, I'm not going to buy this painting for 19. It's only going to be worth 20. And I end up with just no paintings. That's I'm too careful and it's not working for me.
Yeah, as the audience has probably figured out by now, we really don't know what we're doing on this one, but it's fun to play.
I feel like I was not bad at this game 10 years ago, but now I'm terrible at the game. I don't know what happened.
I felt like I was having a solid game. Paul, I thought I was winning. And then you revealed how much money you had. And I was just like, goodness, what happened? I ended up in second place on this one.
I thought our last game was fairly close, no?
I had
he was ahead of me by
20% more than
that's true. You did. Yeah.
The rest of us were close to each other, but we were not close to Paul.
We've probably gone over this ad nauseum, but we haven't really talked about the auction trilogy.
Well, we've talked about one of them already.
But yeah, so this is part of the triumvirate of the Knizia auction trilogy, being Modern Art, Medici, and Raw. Also Hollywood, Blockbuster, and For Sale. So just like in
the ever-increasing trilogy.
Yeah. Well, For Sale is Stefan Dora. It's not Knizia.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I was thinking that. It feels very Knizia. But it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide. Mostly Harmless is the fifth book in the increasingly inaccurately named Hitchhiker's trilogy. So
you could say Amun-Ra is part of the increasingly inaccurate trilogy.
Yeah, Amun-Ra. I go back and forth on that one because obviously it's full of auctions, but it's different from those other games because it has that purchase phase.
Yes.
And where the other ones are pure auction.
Right. So Traumfabrik, which is, as you say, Hollywood, Blockbuster, or now it's Nightmare Productions. If you want to make it a tetralogy, or High Society is another Knizia auction game if you want to make it a pentalogy.
Right.
But you're right. This is one of the classic three, and we've done Ra on an earlier episode. So I guess that means we're going to have to do Medici at some point.
Okay.
I don't know if we've done a Rushmore of Knizia games, but without going through four of them, where does this fall on your list of favorite Knizias?
This could get to number 4. It might not, though. That's just for me.
Right?
Yeah, it's hovering around 5, probably. It's I'm not even sure if it's the best auction game. I think Raw maybe hedges it out a little bit. But then again, look, one of the things about modern art is a 5-player modern art where people are going for it and hamming it up and really trying to get the best deals and make great auctions. There's hardly a better gaming experience out there.
It's just fun.
Yeah. And Raw doesn't have that. Raw's fun. I love Raw. It's a great game, but
it's a little dry,
it's not raucous. Yeah. Right.
It's a little sandy.
Nice. Well, while we're playing in the sand, 5 only, play these games only in 5. Amun-Re. It's another solid game. There is an auction in there. It's a little convoluted, and there's an extra layer of complexity on top of it. But I don't know. I think at 5 only, I would probably say Amun-Re edges out modern art for me. Mm-hmm. On to the prompts then. So weight and complexity. On Board Game Geek's scale from 1 to 5, how would you rate the complexity of modern art and all of its auctions? Dave.
Well, I feel like and maybe it's just because we've been talking a lot of Knizia lately, but we've been saying this a lot. The rules load is a 1, only because I can't go lower.
Right.
But to win the game, there is a little more complexity there.
Well, but we're going to cover strategy next.
Right. But I'm saying just the overall weight of the game, just understanding the rules, that doesn't get you there to having the full game experience. I'm really on the fence on this one. So I'm, because I'm constantly scratching my head about it, I'm going to give it a 3. But it could be a 2.
I think it's a solid 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it down as a 2 as well. I think the auctions, if it were just the auctions, it would be a 1.
You said it yourself, Dave. You read the rules and you're like, I just played the game in my head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and what were we talking about where you were like 4 pages of rules, including, the cover page, so it was actually 3 pages. That was clans, right?
Yeah, and making a note comparison to our games now. What was Darwin's Journey? 37-page rule book.
Right.
And however many 4,500 rules questions on Arkham Horror, the board game,
right?
Forums. Yeah, we've come a long way. Not always in the best way.
Right.
Long way backwards.
But yeah. I'll say it's a 2 because it's beyond the auctions. You have the ending conditions for the round, and there are a couple of corner cases that keep it from being that simple, right? Like what we ran into, I don't think we'd ever seen what happens when someone offers a double painting and no one gets in by offering a second painting. That was nuts. Mm-hmm. But it was a really great play for Greg. So in strategy, how much opportunity is there for strategy and long-term planning? Same scale, 1 to 5. Paul.
I'm hedging my bets with a 3.
Okay.
For all the reasons we talked about.
Yeah. I could argue anything from a 1 to 3 on this. I mean, at least when you start out, it feels like a 1, right? It's all luck of the draw. And then when you start looking at valuing the artists and how expected value is going to change, it becomes a 2. But now I think, like, if you're counting card and you realize there aren't enough light metal cards for it to be a 4th round threat, or saving open auctions until the end, you could probably talk yourself into saying it's a 3. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's a 3. It's the hand management is a big part of the game. Is when I'm looking at these cards, I'm like, I'd really love to auction this card now for the quick buck. But, later in the game, if I can work things out right, this could be, I can get 150 for this card or something, or whatever. Like I could really get a lot of money for this. So I think there is a little bit of long term as far as you start off with however many cards, and depending on the player count, you get maybe 3 or 4 cards, and then 3 or 4 cards, and then that's it.
Right.
So you really have to be thinking about where you're going from here, and you can't really depend on those cards that you're going to be getting. So you kind of have to have that in mind from your first hand.
Right. Yeah. So the number of cards you start with depends on player count.
Yeah.
And you start with 8 at 5, 9 at 4, and 10 at 3.
And I think you get 3 cards at 5.
We'll talk to that in a little bit. I've got it written down in my notes here because it's going to influence my thoughts on player count. Okay, strategy were 3s. How about luck? How much do you think luck plays a factor? And we can't say 5 because our friend who did crazy stuff won more often than not. So
No. For me, it's a solid 3, and that's primarily because of the double auction cards. There's only 12 in the game, and you could just never draw one.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't draw any doubles, it's an uphill battle.
I don't know if you can win with 0 doubles.
Right. Or if you draw a Christian P double and nobody else plays.
Well, you
Which is
can
how I
still
did it.
win then if you build those alliances, especially
Right.
if you have it at the opening game. You know, okay, I got to get Christian P on the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you never draw one, you're probably not going to win.
Right. I agree.
They're like those catch-up cards in that racing game, that Formula racing game that we don't like.
The ketchup racing game?
Are you talking about Top Race?
Yeah, on Top Race. If you
Okay.
don't get the catch-up card, I'm talking about,
Are you talking about the card where you get to switch positions with somebody else?
no, you get to catch up to somebody else. I don't think you pull them back, but you can just catch right up to them, or you can crash them. I think those are your
My
two.
recollection is you traded positions, but maybe that was one of the... Anyway,
I don't know,
Yeah, there was. But
we've
you
got
had,
heat now. We're never playing it again.
true.
you had conflated Top Race with Downforce. You were like, I'm not playing Downforce ever again because of this ketchup card thing.
Oh,
And I
no, it
went-
was Top Race. Yeah.
And I went through and
They're the same game.
they're not.
No?
No, because I went through and looked at the power cards in Downforce, and the one that you were talking about wasn't there.
Oh,
Right.
But Downforce has, I think, added to it. I think Downforce is like a new edition of Top Race.
And that could be true.
Yeah.
But they've gotten rid of the thing that you.
Anyway, that was a high luck
yeah.
card.
That was a high luck
And-
card.
We're talking about modern art not having a lot of luck, but having a fair amount.
Right.
Well, but that's the comparison, though, is that if you don't get the doubles, you're probably not going to win. And if you get 3 or 4 doubles, you got a lot going for you.
That's true. That's true. I think you have to be strategic as to when you use them, though. I mean, because early on, when it's an open table, yes, it's easy to say I'm going to do a double, but
You're not going to make money from them if you do them in the first round, though.
that's
Right.
true too. But what about the thoughts of playing cards where it's safe to play it and auction it without accelerating the end of the round? In other words, if I put it up to 4, now anybody could jump in. So you can pretty much say it's safe up to 3 unless someone pulls a Greg and does the unexpected double auction to end the round. Assuming that doesn't happen, like up to 3 is usually safe and money earning opportunity for you as the auctioneer. Is that legit, or do you not agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the more paintings sold, the higher the price you're going to get when you auction it.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So theme. How much do we think the theme has been integrated versus pasted? And I'm going to say this tongue in cheek. I mean, I had this down. If auctions are the theme, then this is a 5. What else could it get? But I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, now before we started recording, you showed me some of the different versions of the game,
Right.
and there might be a 5-themed version that I just haven't played yet because I wrote down a 3 for the Mayfair edition.
Right.
But I think with a pimped out copy, that score would go up.
What do you think, Dave?
I mean, can there be a better implementation of auctioning and collecting art? I mean, I think it's 5. It's what
Right.
else do you want? What else could it be? And although I do like the idea of, I mean, there should be versions of this like there are of Monopoly, right? Getting different versions of different artists. I mean, if it were
There are.
much
Well, there
more
are.
popular game. Well, I know there are a lot, and there are a lot of international versions.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
So let's go ahead and jump forward to it since we're kind of in the version topic. Did you look at any of the versions I had linked to in the show notes?
I didn't, but I've kind of over
Did
time.
you see the Korean version?
Look at the
I
Dice
have
Tree
seen
version.
Yeah,
So
I have
it
seen
uses actual artists and their paintings. It comes with a gavel and a sound block.
It's the full 9 yards.
Right.
Do I need to add a gavel to mine?
Yes.
I mean, I've got the easel, which I'm super proud of the easel. But
Well, the easel comes with the game, though, the little fold-out one.
I bought that. No, I bought that at Michael's. Mine didn't come with it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
The
sure
new
yours doesn't
version
have
that's
it.
being sold in stores right now has an easel, like a triangular easel.
They're copying
Right.
me on that.
And it has a cardboard gavel. But yeah, a real gavel.
Oh, so the cardboard
Would make
gavel
it
is
awesome.
just a start player marker, the auctioneer marker. You're not
Yes.
actually banging the table.
But in that Korean version from Dice Tree, it comes with a gavel and a sound block, and it comes with an easel.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's going from anywhere from like $120 to $250 now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I paid $15 for my Mayfair copy. Brand new in shrink.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I have sentimental value because I also like the artists that are in the original version, right?
Yeah.
The Light Metal, the Yoko, the Carl Glitter, the Christian P, and the Crypto.
Yeah, all the additions are good. I'm only really familiar with the Mayfair one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of them changed the names of the artists and to other fictitious ones. I do like the originals.
I've seen some that look like they're the size of like a to-call box or, like a Monopoly box, which to me, really, what I'm at the end of the day, I'm going to go by box size is the one that I want. And
right. It takes up the least amount of room.
I don't want the raw Kickstarter version of this one.
How about the Kingdom Builder Empire Edition?
Right. With like actual frames.
That has actual castles in it.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Favorite player count. What is it best played at?
5, of course.
Right. But see, I think there's a defensible reason. Why do you think that?
Well, I haven't heard Dave yet.
I'm definitely 5, though 4 is strong. And what I like about 4 is you have a little more control over the overall tableau because you're going to get more auctions in. You're going to be auctioneer more often. Right. But at the end of the day, I want to play it at 5. And I don't want to play it at other player counts.
Agreed.
I have tuned my intuitive EV calculations to the 5-player game. And if I ever play it 4 or 3, I'm going to be bidding way too much.
Well, maybe, because here's the thing. For me, it's 5. There are 70 cards in the game. And at 5, each player starts with 8, which is 40. And then each player gets dealt 3 cards more in the next 2 rounds.
And you deal out the whole deck, yeah.
And you deal out the whole deck. And at 4, you start with 9, which is 36 for 4 players. Then you have 2 rounds of 4, which is another 32, which is only 68. So 2 cards are going to stay behind, and you'll never know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And at 3, it gets even more exacerbated with starting with 10 cards in 2 rounds of 6, which is 2 rounds of 18 cards, so 36. So 66 cards. 4 cards aren't going to come out. And I think this game is best when you know every card is going to be played. It's kind of like the Amun-Re thing, where it's best because you know every province is going to be auctioned at some point during that epoch.
It definitely lends to more strategic play when you do, yeah.
Right.
Normally, I would be okay with cards being removed from a deck because, giving you that cloud of what is or is not going to be in this time. In this case, though, since the ties are broken based on the artist, and that's based on the number of cards that'll be in the deck, you could really get some broken setups to where Light Metal has the most cards in the deck and breaks all ties or, something like that.
Right. So for me, that's why 5 is the best. And if we roll right into least favorite, it would be 3.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Play something else at 3. Even Raw at 3 is fine.
Right. No, I agree with that. So actual playing time, we've kind of talked about it. Boxes lie. I think 45 minutes, if you weren't getting reacclimated to the calculations, is probably light, but you could be plus or minus 10, you could be within 10, 15 minutes.
I don't think I've ever played a 5-player game in less than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, we ham it up and take our time and put our thought into it and lots of laughing and stuff. So we were 90 minutes when we played a couple weeks ago, but we did have a brand new
Were we?
play. Yeah.
Jeez, I did not realize that. Oh my gosh, you're
right.
right.
Even more.
No, it was. It was 91.
Anyway.
is what I captured.
We did have a new player, so there was some teaching and that. But we have fun.
It was an hour 20 after the teach.
This isn't the kind of game, right?
An
this
hour
isn't
teach
the kind
on
of
a
game
4-page
where you're just
rulebook.
going to put your head down and power through and let's knock it out real quickly. We like to have fun with it.
Oh yeah.
Right. All right, so we've covered editions and there are no expansions. So let's skip down to most recognizable comparison, the highest ranking game that is most like this one.
And we should have talked about this beforehand, but I think we should throw out the other Knizia auction games, unless you guys have those as your answers. But those felt too easy.
I don't. No, you've already stated mine.
You can have them, Dave.
I don't mind. I moved on. I stated yours?
You did. I mean, you misattributed it. No, I had For Sale.
Okay.
Because there are 2 different types of auctions in that one, and it feels similar in weight to me.
Yeah, I really scratched my head on this because there's so many choices. I went with Brian Boru because it has auctions, it has alliances, it has surprises, and it is a little heavier, but I think a lot of the play is similar.
I like it.
I really struggled with this, especially, taking the Knizia games out. And for a while, I was stuck on Furnace. And that's the reason I bought Furnace is because of the auctions. because I think they're very clever. But it doesn't have the same feel because it also has that cube exchange, which is, I think, a maybe even bigger part of Furnace. So, but then I started thinking about the train games that we play and the way that shares distributed. If you could think of the artists as shares in, train companies, it's not a big leap. But because of that, as far as the feel, not as far as the actual mechanism. And because of that, I'm going to go with Chicago Express.
Okay.
Because that idea of an auction, and I'm going to try to split your value. So I'm going to auction off that railroad. So you have to split your shares with somebody else. And of course, obviously modern art doesn't have that, but the tableau, how the tableau changes between all of what we own amongst us affects our individual values of those cards. And so it has that feel where I need to keep track of your portfolio as far as why I'm choosing something to auction. And it gets close to that feel.
Yeah, so I might be jumping the gun here, but it's in line with what you just said, Dave. Would you ever play modern art with a house rule of open money?
Well, it's hidden trackable, and I always lose out on hidden trackable because I got crap for memory. So
I think if you play modern art with open money, it would feel very similar to Chicago Express.
Yeah.
Because of all the political wheeling and dealing that would happen.
Interesting. And then it would take even longer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for that reason, no thanks.
Yeah, I veto it and I'm going to bang the gavel on it.
Yeah. It becomes a different game that I'd rather just go play Chicago Express if we want that portion of it.
Right. All right. So then less recognizable comparison. What did you have for that one, Dave?
Well, this is the only time we actually could say Monopoly, but I'm not going to. It is an auction game, and the tableau,
is that less recognizable?
It's not in the top
Can
750.
Monopoly be less recognizable?
What rank is the game? It's ranked like 20,000.
Amongst
which version?
board game geeks only, but
I'm just going by the rules of the game here. Anyways, I did not pick that. My real answer is the Estates or
No!
That's why I wanted to go first, because of course you were going to say it. But you know what? I'll say the Estates and you say Noya Hamet or Heimat, which is our two different entries in the
Oh, okay.
But I like the idea that when you're auctioning things off or when you're buying auctions, this one has a central board, a shared board, which obviously modern art doesn't. But you're affecting the board in the same way that the number of artists you have in front of you are affecting that kind of our collective tableau. So as things are auctioned off, that's kind of taking shape.
Okay.
Yeah, and I picked it as well, although I guess I'm picking Neue Heimat because while you're playing the game, you can win an auction for something that turns out to lose you money. And that's what happened to me in our last game of Modern Art.
Right.
Well, I'd say it's so close that Paul even misattributed a rule from the Estates to Modern Art. In the Estates, the auctioneer can always bid one more and take it. And we were thinking, is that a part of Modern Art? And it's not, but it was kind of being conflated last time we were talking about getting ready to play.
My fault.
But true on the one time around auction, you could do that.
Yes.
So I had a game called Art Society. You are auctioning art, and when you win, you have to hang it on your wall, on your display wall, and you don't want art of the same genre touching each other on the wall, so there's a spatial element to it. And then the art that doesn't get purchased goes to a museum, and it will increase the value of that genre. So the value of the art will vary during the course of the game, depending on what hasn't been purchased. So I'm not sure that it is a replacement for it, because at some point, I think you are really looking at the spatial element puzzle, and that's more important than the auction piece, but it's very similar. But I want to give honorable mention. This is a game I'm really excited to get. And unfortunately, the first copy I ordered got lost. So someone's enjoying it somewhere in Barstow or something like that. It's called Comic Hunters. And you have multiple rounds and types of drafting to create the best collection of comic books. And it's supposed to use Marvel art.
I haven't heard of it. It's new?
It was originally, I think, released in Portugal back in maybe 2022. And it's now available in English and only available, as I've been able to find, from Barnes & Noble. But like I said, somewhere along the way, it stalled. It was actually in Vernon, California. It stalled. So someone in Vernon is playing my copy of that game, and I've got a replacement one coming.
I go there for work all the time. I'll look for it.
There you go. So house rules. So we talked about open money. Are there any other house rules that you would suggest for this game?
I got nothing.
Well, to be clear, no one is actually suggesting open money.
Yeah.
I prefer not knowing and just
No,
having a feeling. Yeah.
I mean, no house rules, but we play with iron clay chips because the chips that come with my Mayfair edition are actually kind of annoying. Playable, but annoying.
Yeah, they're like tiddlywink cheap plastic.
Yes. And yeah, you got to have an easel. If you don't have an easel, you're not trying.
Okay. Now, I'm
Same
not
for
getting an easel
gavel.
Yeah, that's true. I do feel gavel shamed. I'm going to have to go out and get one.
You have gavel envy?
Yes.
All right. And then I had ham it up, have fun with the auctions, because I think that's an important part of this game. So if this game is being played at game night, what do you want to play afterwards? Or since Modern Art is a lighter game, we called it a 2 as far as weight. What would you like to play along with it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it has to be a 5-player game. So
Right.
let's get that out of the way first.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just had so much fun last time. I picked Princess of Florence, which is what we did.
I had the same thing. I thought we nailed it.
Yeah, me too.
It's an auction game. It's a very structured auction game, but I just love that experience of playing Princes and then Modern Art.
When auction games are such a vibe, it does make sense to kind of stay with that vibe where they're going with different feel to it. But when you're in auction mode, it's kind of nice to stay in that place. Yeah, it worked so cleanly together the other night. I had a blast.
So you had the same thing, Princess of Florence?
Yep, absolutely.
Nice.
High five, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so what feature of the game still stands out to you? What has aged the best in this Knizia Breakout game from 1992? By the way, the other one that took second in the Deutsche Spielepreis voting was Tutankhamun, which I don't think I have ever played.
I have not.
It has to be the elegance, darling.
The elegant conversation comes up
Very
again.
demure, very mindful.
There
Yes.
you go. Very thoughtful.
That's definitely true. That's not the answer that I had, but I agree 100%, Paul. It is so elegant with that simple rules, but so much gameplay.
Right. So what did you have?
So mine is the interplay of the auctioning plus speculating. I think they work so well as far as when I'm buying something, that kind of the calculations that you have to do for that speculation, and then when I'm trying to get money for what I'm auctioning off. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's always true of all auction games, but in this game, they're hand in hand. So it works so well together.
Right. And I had down all the different auction types and how they somehow blend together
Mm-hmm.
in an enjoyable way.
The right amount of spice to the game. It's very well seasoned.
Yeah, most auction games have one kind of auction.
Right. Yeah. That's what makes this one stand out. And I think there is something to be said for trying to hold on to open auctions till later in the game if you think it's going to be an artist that's going to be paying well, because you're going to get more money for it as people recognize what the bidding is. I think. Who knows?
Yeah, you see, you brought that up earlier. I don't think we closed that loop out on that conversation on that part, but there are some auctions that are definitely easier. Like an open auction is easy. I throw it out there,
Right.
and I don't have to, because I don't have to do the calculations as to what I think it's worth. I'll throw it out there, and you guys will tell me what it's worth.
Right.
But fixed price, I have to set a price, so I have to have a very good feel. So that's why the open auctions and the once around, that always feels like I'm going to make the most money off of those because you guys are going to go for it. Fixed price, I'm so afraid to lowball, even more afraid to ask too much and get stuck with it.
Right.
So that's a higher difficulty auction.
It's a very difficult auction, yes.
Yeah, I think it's just amazing how well those different auction types work together to increase the fun of the game.
Well, did we have any fixed price auctions when we played a few weeks ago?
We did.
I don't remember any.
There was at least 2, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was definitely the least played card.
Yeah, I think it just people weren't confident that I can set a price and make good money.
Well, I think the reason why you don't remember them is you probably never got a chance at it, right?
I think you're accurate. I think
the
that's
first
true.
person afterwards is like, yeah, okay, I'll buy it. Done.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to the next one.
Right.
Well, that's always a kick in the pants too when you're like, all right, I set the price at $14,000 and the guy next to you goes, take it, yes. Dang it.
You're like, oh.
They would have paid more.
You left money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So what feature of the game now disappoints? What hasn't aged as well? I've got a cheap answer for this.
I mean, for me, it's the double auction cards.
That's it.
I don't know how the game would be without them, but part of me feels like maybe it could be a better game without them. Although there's some surprise plays we saw that were definitely a lot of fun. So taking them out would take out some fun.
I think they're a necessary catch-up mechanism for artists that weren't in the first round of auctions and maybe you think aren't going to sell that round.
That's an excellent point. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
I
want to
think
be
so.
able to force an artist to not sell, to sell for zero, double auctions are necessary. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you need to be able to just bring an artist from obscurity into play.
Yep.
And also the threat of them are sometimes as powerful as actually using them.
Okay, I retract my answer.
Well, but my take on that was it's that chaos of the randomness of the way the cards get dealt. Like, so if you get none of them, then you never get to experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's my
that
only
side
problem
of
with
it.
the game, honestly.
So that's the answer for you.
Yeah, I wonder if I feel like a more modern game would have that distribution. Maybe you shuffle those and deal them out, and so everybody gets one. I
Right.
probably don't like that, but I feel like a more modern game would have something to ensure that distribution a little better.
Right.
Oh, now you're borderlining on house rule there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So did this game replace a previous one for you?
Like I said, no, it was a bolt out of the blue.
Right.
Same. It was my first pure auction game, so no.
Right. So this displaced Pit. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has it since been replaced? And if so, by what?
I certainly play For Sale a lot more than this game, but I wouldn't say it's replaced.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely still play modern art. I play Raw more than For Sale, so I would say it's been replaced by Raw. When we're feeling auctions, usually that's what comes out.
Right. And I looked at it from the only play with 5 lens.
Yeah.
And it seems like in that scenario, we play Amun-Re more than we play modern art.
Yeah, except for that new edition of Amun-Re kind of took the wind out of our sails.
So true.
I should just sell it and just, if we play again, when we play again, I should say, we're playing the old copy. I'm never
Agreed.
playing that new one again.
Yeah.
I'm mad at it.
Or sell both of them. I got to copy the old one.
No. That one's going to my grave with me.
Yeah, that one's fantastic. All right. Soundtrack. What music would you want to listen to while playing modern art? And what did we listen to? Because you actually thought about it.
Well, because we had to, because remember, my neighbor's alarm kept going off.
Right.
And so we had to drown it out. So our first choice made a ton of sense, the Thomas Crown Affair. And we put it on, and then it totally didn't work. So
Right.
It was horrible. Yeah.
We ended up with an album called Elevator to the Gallows by Miles Davis. It's kind of a swanky, jazzy soundtrack, and it actually
that a lot.
ended up fitting very well. Yeah.
Didn't you also play some instrumental versions of the Smiths?
No, we talked about it, though, because that's what's in the art scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the instrumental version of Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want.
Correct.
But that would be the only one, I guess, that we just play that song over and over.
Yeah, what are we going to listen to? Shake It Up Baby Now next, or Donka Shane?
I really like the Miles Davis, so that was my answer. Just jazzy classical music.
Well, that one in particular, that Elevator to the Gallows in particular, first of all, great French New Wave movie. And that soundtrack is just, the story is that Miles Davis happened to be in France, met up, with these people, and then it was kind of on a whim, ended up doing the soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack, kitschy French New Wave movie, but I listen to that soundtrack all the time.
Awesome. All right. And by the way, I'm saying what we listened to, so yes, that soundtrack was perfect. I literally have, what did we listen to? I'm choosing that. So rating on Board Game Geek scale of 1 to 10 now. How would you rate modern art? Who wants to go first? Do you want to bid on it? No.
And what's around?
Exactly. There you go.
I think it's a closed bid.
I'll start. I'm at a 6. My rating is a 6. I like to play it when I'm in the right mood.
All right. I have it down as a 7. So I'm usually willing to play it, especially at the end of a night. So Dave, did we do it right? Did we play the game?
Are you going to win it? Or
I'm going to win this one. For me, this game's a 9.
Nice.
Wow, you overbid. No.
The one round worked.
It's worth it. It's hanging. It's going over the mantle. This personal. No, but for me, it's a 9. It's always fun. There's nothing wrong with the game, and it's just everything it does perfectly. And so it will always be in my collection. I'll always play it. And whatever the rules are on the rating, 9 probably means I'll ask to play it every day or whatever. It's not that, but I mean, it's a 9. And really the only things keeping it out of a 10 is that kind of those games where you do feel a little bit of lack of control, that I can't get anything going that I want to get going. And so those happen. That's more The sandboxy strength is also a slight drawback of the game, but
Right.
I have no complaints. It's a 9.
Okay. Last question then. Is it replayable, and how soon would you want to revisit the game? So we just played it. So we're recording this on August 27th. We didn't play it at game night last night, but we played it a week ago, Monday. So how soon would you want to revisit the game, assuming it's replayable? Although I kind of feel like we said we would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's always mystifying, and I like playing it every year. So
All right, Dave?
Yeah, it's once or twice a year for me, no more than that. Actually, like Paul said, mystifying. I like that because that's actually one of the things that I like about it is that we haven't solved it. Not that it's solvable, but we're always a little wrong-footed when we play the game, as we're scratching our heads a little bit, and that I think is part of the fun. Is that I can't quite get my head around. I feel like I should be able to, but I can't quite, and I like that.
Right. And for those reasons, I'll bid the highest on this one. I could play this 3-4 times a year just because I want to try to catch up to it and feel like I play it well. It's not going to stop me from wanting to play it if I feel like it's solved, but at least I won't feel like I'm flailing, which sometimes happens when you guys are out bidding and I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they all willing to bid this much money on this card? And then I'm catching up by the end.
We were talking about this on another game, and I forget what it was, but that those games that you can pull it off the shelf and start playing right now. We don't have to review the rules. There's no edge cases really that we don't really know what to do with. It could have been 3 years since we played. We'll pull it off the shelf and we're playing right now.
Yeah, that was Megan talking about clans.
Yeah, and which that's such a treat.
it applies here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We sit down and we know how to play. All right. And with that, we've revealed our 5th Yoko painting in the final round. And for our next episode, we're going to go back to something, or not. We're not going back. We're going to talk about a more recent game. So a game that's been released in the last few years. I know that we've done a bunch of classics in a row. We did Thieves, we did Clans, we've now done Modern Art. And part of that was just working around summer vacation schedules and games that we could record on short notice. So we'll be tackling a newer game. And this one's going to be In Space. So thanks for being here, you guys. I really appreciated it. It was a fun game to revisit, both playing and talking about. And I'm looking forward to the next time we play.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, loved it.
Thank you for listening to Replayable. Support for our podcast comes from listeners like you. You can find us online at replayable.fm, on Twitter as ReplayableFM, and on Instagram as ReplayableFM. You can also join our team at patreon.com/replayable. Thank you for your support. We welcome your feedback, which is the only way that we are going to get better. You can get in touch with us via email at feedback@replayable.fm. And if you're interested in sponsoring us, then please contact us at sponsors@replayable.fm.